I love auctions. Car auctions, surplus auctions, heck, even eBay auctions. And when I have a chance to attend one live, I always look forward to it. If you're attending NamesCon next week, January 11th through the 14th, 2015, this interview will prep you for deals you can't pass up, opportunities you may not have realized, and a whole lot of fun. Even if you're not going to NamesCon, you can watch the auction online and bid in real time. Stay tuned to learn how. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is Escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger, and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you can learn how to become a successful domain name investor or entrepreneur directly from the experts. Today we're going to talk about the upcoming Right of the Dot auction that will take place live at the NamesCon conference in Las Vegas. So I invited the 2 people responsible for the auction onto today's show. Regular guest Sherpa Michael Berkins and past Sherpa Monty Khan. Michael is co-founder and managing director, and Monty is co-founder and president of Right of the Dot, an internet consulting and advisement firm specializing in new and existing TLD strategy, board advisement, premium domain and market positioning, sales, and services. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael.
All right, so NamesCon, we're all packing up our offices, getting ready to head out to Vegas. It's taking place January 11th through the 14th, beautiful Las Vegas. I love to go to Vegas. It's a conference primarily focused for the domain name industry. They're going to have everything from, individual investing tracks to launching a new top-level domain for the next round and even things like dealing with legal issues. It's likely to have more than 800 people in attendance. One of the events at the conference will be a live auction. It's going to take place on Tuesday night, January 13th from 5:40 p.m. to 7:40 p.m. Pacific time zone. So I'm not sure where you're watching, but it's happening Pacific time zone. From what I understand, you 2 gentlemen are responsible for the entire auction. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it's actually 4:30 Pacific time until 7:40 Pacific time.
I'm glad you corrected that. Okay, so it starts at 4:30. You're going to start off with some background information, then you're going to start hitting the road with, listing all the domain names and running through them one by one.
That is correct. We're actually starting off with a really cool panel of some of the new TLD participants who are actually sponsoring the auction and having names in the event. And they're going to give a pitch on their new TLDs, why it's important, some examples of use, and some of the examples of websites that are up and running and making their TLD successful already. And then we'll roll right into the live auction, and there'll be food and cocktails, and it'll be an exciting event.
Awesome.
We're really excited.
And I was looking over the domain names last night. I see about 365 domain names, including some 3-character numeric.coms, which are totally hot, similar to the one that Michael Berkins, your company, Most Wanted Domains, just sold for $800,000. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Not unexpectedly, being in Vegas, I see some gambling-related domain names, some geographic domain names, and of course, single-word generics. Estabot.com puts the retail value of the entire auction portfolio at, you guys know, right?
No, we haven't ran it.
What? $14.7 million retail value. I looked up the list. I personally love the domains investment.com, land.com, susan.com. I see a lot of startups nowadays using real names. One of my favorite startups is Oscar Healthcare out over in New York, New Jersey area using oscar.com. You two have been in the domain name industry since the beginning. Monty, I think you ran one of the first auction, or actually an auction back in the 90s, 97, 96, that brought in millions
99.
of dollars. How do you think this auction is going to compare?
Well, I think we've planned this auction out to help spark up and build a new foundation for a lot of the new TLDs. So we, on purpose, are expecting names to sell it at fair prices, but we're creating and making a market at the very beginning of a new wave of domain investment opportunities, we think. We obviously have a lot of .coms in there that we know that will get a lot of interest and attention, and we did that for a couple reasons. One, there's still many investors that are new and existing that are interested in .coms, and .coms not going anywhere. So we're a big believer in .com and its powerful and strength in the market. But on top of that, a lot of the existing .com investors are also interested in hedging their bets and putting their new stakes in the ground in new real estate that has not been established yet. So we could have flooded the whole auction with premium .com names and made a lot more money for everybody. But we are building a new foundation for the industry as a long-term play to help benefit everybody, both new, existing TLDs, new investors, existing investors, and we've concentrated a great deal on end users in this particular space. So that's why we did it this way.
Excellent. So I saw, I mentioned a few .coms, but there are some great .clubs in there. And I know that you two have worked with Bill McClure, who acquired Coffee.club and is one of the best examples of new businesses that got up and running quickly. I hope Bill McClure is going to be at the conference. Do you guys know?
Yes, he will. And actually, we pitched him the Coffee.club name a year ago at NamesCon. And so it took a whole year, basically, to get that transaction to go through. And so far, it still counts as the largest new TLD sale that we know of on record at $100,000. So we're expecting these same types of transactions to occur, maybe at this auction and maybe beyond the auction. And again, this is why we've selected a broad range of different extensions at different price ranges to help spark the market in various ways and attract a global audience in various TLDs.
Yeah, great point. So like I said a few moments ago, you two have been in the industry since the beginning. I want to know from your two individual investor perspectives what your favorite domain names are. Mike, let's start with you. What are your 3 favorite names on the list and why?
No, it's hard to narrow it down to 3. I mean, obviously, I really do like the 877.com. I mean, we know that the biggest buyers of these names are the Chinese, and we know that 8 and 7s are the 2 luckiest numbers. The names already got a pre-bid of 200,000. I think it's very reasonably priced. So I expect that name to sell. I really like it, and I think it sort of speaks for itself.
Totally. Now, if I look at that list, let me stop here for a second, Mike. If I look at the list, I see 877.com has not hit reserve, even though it has a $200,000 pre-bid. The reserve listed at Snap Names, and I'm going to have a link below so people can click through it, is listed between $250,000 and $1 to $500,000. So somewhere in that range is the reserve that this domain will likely sell at, or minimum bid that it will sell at.
I don't have it in front of me. Is it 250 to 5? Is that the range?
That's what it says.
For that?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So I think it will. I think it's in the range already of reserve. There's a mathematical calculation to determine how close the name is to reserve and whether it's going to show up as a bid. So you can't bid $1 on a name that's at $500,000 and show it as a bid.
That makes sense.
Right. So in the past, some auctions have done that. So we have not done that. So, you're getting into the range of a sale. If the name is showing, having met a minimum range, but not quite in reserve. But I think it's a good buy. I may even buy it. I like the name a lot.
With your proceeds from your other three number that just sold.
Exactly.
Well, what else do you like on the list, Mike?
That's kind of a lot of the way we determine what goes in the list is names like, would I buy the name?
Yeah.
Obviously I can't afford to buy all the names, but it's a name that I would like to buy or would consider buying. And although since you mentioned Estebat before, although we didn't run the total, we did look at Estebat just for a gauge for all of the names we took, and we wanted to make sure that the valuations were, either below or well below the Estebat range, or at least close there too. And we tried very hard to not take domain names that had really high reserves, whether or not they potentially could be worth some money. So, because we didn't want to have an unlimited number of names in the auction. So, I'll talk about Sex Education for a second. That's a name that I just threw in at the last minute. It's a name I bought at an auction. I paid over $100,000 for the name. I put it in at no reserve for a few reasons. One reason is we've been so urging people to put lower reserves on domain names and trust the market, and trust that the market will determine its true value. And since I've been, telling hundreds of people to do that, I felt it was important that I take the lead and do it myself. And so I put it in at no reserve. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting play. We'll see how it all winds up. But it's a name that obviously has an Estebat of over 100,000. It's a name that I bought because I thought it was one of these adultish kinds of names that could appear anywhere in any sort of media. It could be advertised on television or any publication anywhere in the world, because it didn't have an adult taint to it. So I still love the name, think it has a million uses for it, and we'll be interested to see what happens with it. I like the name. There's a lot of great GTLDs in the auction, as you mentioned. Fans.club has a reserve of, I think, 1,000 to 2,500. I mean, there's a gajillion fans clubs out there. I think that's a really good name. You mentioned investment. Obviously, invest.com sold for over 5 million this year. Investing sold for over 2.5 million a few years ago, and investment, is sort of, again, within this range. So it's a name that I really like. Land is a great name. It's a new GTLD as well. So there's quite a few registrations under .land, and I think it's a great name. Aside from the GTLD component. I'll let Monty get us through a few in, and then I'll come back for a moment.
All right, that sounds good. Monty, let's switch over to you. What are your favorites on the list, and why?
Well, some of the .com names I'm really a big fan of. Being in the auction business for so long, I love auctions.com. And I think it's an obtainable name at the price range it's in, even though there's not any pre-bids on it yet. As you know, most investors hold back from pre-bidding because they don't want to show their cards. But
right.
A good reason to put a pre-bid in is because you can guarantee it's going to be in the live auction, and it becomes part of the event. So that's one of the advantages of having it. So I
see $1 million to $5 million as the reserve range. That's a big range, Monty.
It's a big range, and it's actually on the lower end of that range, as a hint. But that and carauctions.com, which is priced quite a bit lower, are two really good auction names that I love.
Oh, I didn't even see car auctions on the list. Yeah, that is a good one. That's an enormous industry.
It's a great name, and it's in a really reasonable price range.
$50,000 to $100,000.
Yep, and that's a huge industry. Obviously, one of the biggest, most popular television events that happens on cable is the Barrett car auction and the Mecum car auction. It's on TV.
Love watching the Barrett auction.
Yeah, so they've obviously been contacted, and hopefully they'll be participating in bidding.
Hey, Monty, before you get to your next recommendation, let me ask you, why are there ranges rather than exact reserve numbers? If I'm a seller and I know I would take, $45,000, why put a range of like 25 to 50? Why not just say the reserve is 45?
Well, I'll tell you why. From being an auctioneer and being in the auction business for so long, when you put an exact reserve on, you don't want to indicate that that's the actual value of a domain. And we feel that in this auction, majority of the names are underpriced in their reserves, and that we want the market to determine what the value is based off the inertia and the excitement of the event and the value of the names and where the industry is heading into the future. And by tagging an exact price on it, we feel that it kind of sets in the mindset a behavioral event that says, oh, God, I must have overpaid if it's twice as much as the reserve. So the range is always a good idea. It's what a lot of the large auction houses do without giving away the reserve. They put a minimum reserve range in there that kind of allows the market to decide what the value is instead of tagging a price to it. Generally, when you do that, the auction prices go to more of a market price and go higher than if you tag an exact starting reserve bid.
Huh. Okay.
But
But then you have Mike putting
us,
in sexeducation.com with no reserve. Does that is there some sort of correlation, like if it's within a range close to what your minimum would be if you were a seller, you do better, and if there's like no reserve, then the market just goes crazy and buzz, and everybody thinks they can buy a $100,000 domain name for $1,000 or.
That's right. So the more bidders that are involved in the auction early on at a no or low reserve range, then already you have time and energy invested. Plus, it makes it more exciting, and it's a good buy. So a perfect example of this is .nyc had a land rush auction for marijuana.nyc, and it started off at $10. And because of the sheer number of bidders and interest and value of that name, it went up to $60,000. So obviously there was multiple bidders at $10 that rode it all the way out to the final bidder at $60,000.
And so if they would have started the reserve at $50,000, let's say, they may have turned away a bunch of people that actually would have bid above $50,000.
It may not even sold. It may not even gotten one bid because of that. But once you have time and energy already invested in the auction and you want to win the name, you have a more likelihood of continuing out to your goal and mission of buying the name, which in that case, given what's going on in New York, that could be the best buy ever at $60,000. Maybe it's worth $100,000.
Yeah, that was limited too.
Yeah.
So, and I think the range also allows us, because you don't know the exact selling price, it doesn't even allow for adjustment to be made on the fly. And if the range is 25 to say 50, and the seller's real price is say 45, you might be as a bidder saying, nah, I'd buy it for 40, but I wouldn't buy it for 45. So you sort of eliminate it off your list. Now, as the auction's going on, the seller may take that $40,000 bid, even though his target was 45, and you would know the difference to the audience. So I think it really helps sell. I think it helps create more bids and helps the seller sell, and the buyers buy it at the right price. So it's done well in the past. Yeah.
And getting back to some of my favorites in the other extensions, you mentioned the .club play. We really love wine.club. There's thousands of wine clubs. It's a big industry. A lot of people spend money on wine every month. That's in a higher reserve range, obviously, but we think that it's worth the money. And of course, Chess Club, which is popular hobby and sport all around the world, played in every country. We feel is a good buy as well. And a popular name. And then we're bullish on .global extensions like bitcoins.global and ship.global. .vegas, since we're going to be in Vegas, although it's not going to be a Vegas centric show, but it is appropriate to have some nice good .vegas names in the .vegas registry, and some of the domain investors in .vegas have submitted some great names at no reserve, like rates.vegas, dates.vegas, bailbond.vegas. All of those already have pre-bids and have met their reserve, and love those names as well. .wiki, which as you know is a very popular up-and-coming blog type industry. We like the wiki names a lot too. So there's celebrity.wiki and food.wiki and a bunch of really good wiki names. Again, we went through the list. Even XYZ, who is more of a generic extension, submitted some of the best names ever, even in numeral extensions and also in keywords. So there's just some really good names in a broad range of extensions that we know are going to be here for the long term.
Yeah, excellent. Now, when I watch the Barrett car auction, I always think, man, I need to put in a bid because I know somebody's got, close to $100,000 invested in these beautiful cars, and, the top bid goes for $20,000 or $30,000. What would you say are the best deals in this domain name auction? In other words, what are the great 5 or 6 figure domain names that don't have a reserve to match that you think will be a great buy? Monty, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, there's so many no reserve names that meet that category. It's hard to pinpoint it, but
a third of the auction is that's sitting right now with no reserve.
That's cool.
So, and then that's not even counting. There's a bunch of names that have $200 to $500 reserves.
Yep.
So I'm not even talking about those. I'm saying a third of the auction list is no reserve. Period. So I'll take a quick shot at that. I'll give you a couple of higher dollar ones and a couple of low dollar ones.
Yeah.
So on the low dollar side, I'm just going to pick out three .nyc names real quick. So this private car service .nyc that has no reserve. Private car service, well, it's a huge industry in New York. I think car service .nyc sold for $14,000 in the land rush, which was limited to whoever back ordered it, which was less than 10 people. Monty mentioned marijuana.nyc that sold for 60 grand. There's a marijuana card and marijuana cards .nyc that are sitting at no reserve. There's one bid on them right now. I mean, to me, they're sort of, no-brainers at that. Drone camera. I mean, I was watching a report from CNN on the CES show yesterday, and all they could talk about are drones and cameras and selfie cameras and selfie drones. I mean, drone.camera is a pretty good name. It's sitting at $2,500. Irish.bar. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of them out throughout the country. It's a $5,000 to $10,000 name. And going up a little bit, I mean, one of my favorites is photographers.com. Photography is the third or fourth highest, GTLD registered. Photographers, it's a bang on keyword. It's just a category killer, and it's priced, below category. Category killers are generally seven figures. This is far from it. And I think it's probably one of my favorite. Nose jobs I like a lot. I mean, it's, plastic surgery, tons of procedures done, expensive. Right now it's sitting at a price probably what it costs to get one nose job done. So I obviously haven't had that done, but there's just so many great names.
Doesn't mean you don't need them,
No, it definitely doesn't. I could use a lot of work. .com.
Yeah. Maybe you should pick it up. You can, do a swap for services there, Mike.
It's not my name.
I think golfcourses.vegas is a great name. It's people go there, play golf, they gamble. It's a great name. Shuttles.vegas. Everybody's looking for a shuttle service. I think I mentioned ship.global before. Everybody's shipping globally and making bets.global. So bet.global is a good name. All these have reserves already on them. Some of the .com names that people aren't talking about yet is paperback.com. That has a estimate of over $100,000. That's at no reserve right now. Pathologist, which is a dead-on specialty in the medical field, and that's also at no reserve. Has multiple bidders on it, but those are key names that should be selling. Agree.com is a great name that has a $51,000 bid price already and hasn't met reserve, but it's in a great price range as well.
Yeah,
I like that. I also like Tattoo Parlor. I know Tattoo. There's been a lot of chat over Frank's Tattoo this year. I mean, tattooparlor.com is sitting at a range from 10 to 25 grand. There's a gajillion of those around, so I mean that's a great name. Virginia Real Estate.com is a great name. There's a bunch of real estate related new GTLDs, 7 or 8 or 9 of them, including .real estate. Some are not going to be gettable by the public. Some are only open to realtors. And, at the end of the day, there's going to be 7 or 8 of them. So, these real estate.com names, I think, have a lot of potential of going up in, value. And I actually like that name a lot. There's a couple of two-letter.net domains. There's vp.net, which is, one of the better two letters you can get, which is, I think, 10 to 25 grand. There's a couple more two-letter .net names as well.
Yeah. So I've noted, and I've got a link below this interview to the pre-auction that's at snapnames.com. I've noticed there is a pre-auction, there's a live auction, there's a post-auction. It seems really complicated to me. When I watch a Barrett car auction, there's just an auction on it. I can look at the list of assets before, I can review them prior to the auction, but then it just takes place. For those of us that don't understand why there might be 3 separate phases of this auction, can one of you two explain the flow of activities? Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, if you're buying a domain name from a private party and want to know what else they own, DomainIQ.com is the tool you should be using. View their entire portfolio, filter by Estabot value, and be a better investor. $49.95 for 250 queries per month. Visit DomainIQ.com/portfolio to learn more. For those of us that don't understand why there might be 3 separate phases of this auction, can one of you two explain the flow of activities?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. So, again, the reason why we put a pre-bidding session up is to expose the names well in advance for marketing purposes, and so that the registries that are sponsoring the event can actually link their names to the event as they're doing their PR and social networking and twittering their extensions. So that's one reason. The second reason is that a lot of people change their domain names DNS and put them directly to the landing page to get pre-bid interest as well. So another reason is in this auction we decided that any name with a pre-bid will automatically go to the live auction. So regardless if it meets reserve or not. And so that's a different event to help get excitement in the room. That means already 1/3 of the list basically is going to sell in the live auction as of today. We expect that number to go up. That means it's not going to be a boring event. That's before people, the 300 or 400 people that are going to be in the room, even start raising their paddles. It gives a head start and creates momentum for the event and excitement for the event, and sets foundation prices out of the gate before we even get into the room. So that's another.
I didn't realize that. See, I thought if I was looking at this list, everything will go to the live auction. But you're saying that some of these may not go to the live auction.
Well, there's 300 and some odd names. We're only having about 100 names in the live auction.
Okay.
So now the other reason why we have a different phase, so there's a pre-bidding session, and then anything that gets a pre-bid is automatically going to go to the live auction. There's additional names that we'll select that we know will get interest in the live auction that maybe people are holding back and not pre-bidding on because they don't want to show their cards or whatever, and those are some of the killer names that maybe are too expensive in price ranges, but we think we have end users or whatever to the table. So the live auction will have about 100 names. It'll have between 100 and 110 names because it could be as of early as 8 o'clock in the morning PST on Tuesday, there's more pre-bids to add into the live list.
Gotcha.
Then we'll create our lot numbers and auction order, and then a live auction will occur that day at 4:30 or 5 o'clock PST on January the 13th. Any names that don't meet reserve and any names that weren't going to the live auction and not selected will then go in what's called the extended auction. The extended auction begins on January 15th and runs through February 5th on snap names. Now, for my previous auction events, many names sell in the extended auction. And we get a lot of activity in the extended auction because there's more time to market in some cases for some of the higher names. Some of the sellers will actually come down on their reserve sometimes, and we can get a deal done. And it gives us another 2 to 3 weeks to actually get some sales done and market. And because this is a worldwide marketing event, sometimes the notices don't get to end users in a timely manner, and they figure out there's an auction going on when it's too late. So that's why we have what's called an extended auction for any names that don't meet reserve or names that weren't picked in the live auction to give us extra time to market and have more additional revenue generated for the end users.
That makes sense. So if someone cannot attend live, they're not planning on going to the event, let's go over the logistics. What do they need to do in order to be able to watch the live auction?
Okay, so on Snap Names, there is a link already that makes helps you create an account. Nobody can participate in the auction unless they have a Snap Names account.
Live or pre or after, they need a Snap Names account.
You need a Snap Names account, so that way you agree to terms, and at least they have your bid information and create a bidder number and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The cool thing about this auction, which is something I created back in the moniker days, is that while there's a live in the room, paddle in the air bidding going on, there's a simulcast and video feed, and external bidders can participate while the live auction's going on, and the auctioneer has a screen for the internet bidders along with the live bidders, and then they can be bidding against each other, and online bidders can win the auction. As a matter of fact, when we did this .global auction in London during the ICANN meeting, half of the sales were done from remote bidders. And in my previous auctions that I ran in the past, we had many participants online who couldn't make it or couldn't fly, and that gives, again, the opportunity for worldwide participants to participate in the auction event. So we have an online simulcast and live bidding, and again, you have to have a SnapNames account, and you can join the live auction while the auction's going on and bid. And so that's what happens if you can't attend the event.
Okay.
If you don't want to, if you can't attend the event, because you have some kind of engagement or appointment, or you're out of town, or you're traveling, you can submit a proxy bid or left bid through a proxy form that I think is up there on the site now to download. If not, they can contact us and we can send them a proxy bid form, and you'd want to have your maximum bid submitted on that proxy form, and the auctioneer will work in that bidding process, and if the lower bid wins the auction off your proxy bid, he won't go to your maximum bid. So he'll work up into those bids. So if the next highest bid is $1,000 more, and your top bid is $50,000, and the top bid is $35,000, you'd win at $35,000. He wouldn't max out your bid because you have a proxy form. So that's another safe way to do that if you can't participate live.
Excellent. And if I'm old school and I don't want to get on the web, is there a phone number I can call to talk to somebody and place my bids live, and they'll walk me through what the current bid is?
Yes, so we're going to have, for those that want to participate in on-phone bidding, we're going to have a team of people there from SnapNames and also us to take phone bids. That information's on the website. I don't have the phone number right in front of me right now, but it's on the website.
SnapNames website using the link below.
SnapNames website. You get registered as a phone bidder, and then this team will call that number, your number in advance, 3 or 4 lots before your name comes up to make sure you're online, and then those bids are also worked with the live bidders and the online bidders in the room.
All right. I'm just going to call Mike Birkins, even though I'll be sitting like 2 rows behind him. Hey, Mike, can you put in a bid for me? What do you think about this one? Get some real live advice.
You might be bidding against him in that case.
He wouldn't bid against me. Hey, so let me ask you, are you guys allowed to bid since you're running the conference, the auction, you know the reserve prices?
Well, I think we take the same position that Rick always did at Traffic. I mean, and I think we could bid. I mean, we could bid on SnapNames.
But you know the reserves, Mike.
So?
Yeah. I mean, I won't be bidding. I won't be bidding because I'm going to be up there doing the auction.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there's good opportunities for anybody to bid on, and there's no reason why somebody can't, bid on the names.
All right. Are you guys running the escrow service so that, if a domain sells, you make sure that money comes in and the domain name gets transferred before the money goes out? Or are you just like hooking up the buyer seller with an agreement and then they're responsible for getting the money in the domain?
No, everything's going to be done through our partner SnapNames, who's done, multi-million dollars worth of escrow transactions. And then escrow.com will be a backup for those foreign clients that aren't familiar with the process, and we can use escrow.com for that case.
Excellent. All right.
So it's all part of their automated process. Once you're the winning bidder, notices all go out with escrow instructions. It's all tied into the system that we've created for the live and online event through SnapNames.
Yeah, so when you asked, by the way, at the beginning, is it just you and Monty doing this auction? Actually, the answer is no, because we're getting a lot of us help and assistance through SnapNames. That's obviously doing all of the online bidding, the pre-bidding, and the extra time bidding, and the settlement. So
sure.
And of course, NamesCon has been very supportive. Although it's not their auction, it's our auction at NamesCon. Obviously, it's such a great event, and we basically pitched them on the idea of having a live auction again because of the excitement of the new TLDs and the existing TLDs and the next phase of the market expansion. So that's why we're really high on the idea and bullish on the idea that this is again like we're starting over in 1999 again, and now we have another 10 to 20 years to help solidify a new market for the next generation of users.
Yeah.
I'm
sure a lot of people are going to show up at this conference. They're entrepreneurs looking to get into domain names, want to understand that they see a domain name like wine.club. They realize it's an enormous industry, that wine clubs are all over the world, and they may want to buy it. Its reserve is $101,000 to $250,000. What if they can't afford, 100 plus to buy it outright? Are there any opportunities for any of the domains on the list to do some sort of payment plan, to come to an agreement, or do they need to wait for it, to potentially not sell in order to do that type of deal?
So the live auction event is intended for cash in hand bidders,
okay.
Just like most live auctions are. in the extended auction period, if a name doesn't sell, that's when some of those negotiations can occur and all that stuff can happen.
Yep.
So, and of course, we're available for those negotiations directly. Somebody wants to place a bid, they can place a bid and then be creative with their bid, like, over a 10-year period, similar to what Coffee.Club sold for. Mm-hmm. And many of the new registries, if not all of them, are willing to do those types of founders program type of deals for the right price and the right exposure, and helping to kickstart their domain name. So there are great opportunities to do that after the live event in case something doesn't sell during that event. So that's the good opportunity for everybody.
Excellent.
The .com owners and the .net owners and some of those guys may or may not willing to do owner financing and that kind of stuff. But of course, we have Domain Capital to help with that kind of stuff. They're going to be at the show and able to finance any domain that's purchased at the auction as well. So Domain Capital, who I've worked with in the past, has been great. We financed names through them ourselves personally in the past, and they're the best party to work with that.
Excellent. Do people need to do any type of due diligence when buying domain names in auction, or have all these names been pre-screened by Right of the Dot?
Not only have they been pre-screened by Right of the Dot, but SnapNames runs a very due diligence process to confirm ownership. In the case of some of the new TLDs, some of them are tagged in the Trademark Clearinghouse and have a special clause attached to them, even though they can be sold. There are some claims on generic names that obviously probably are not going to be going through, but we have to note those as well. But every name that's submitted for bid is owned by the actual owner and can transfer.
All right, can I ask you about a couple of them? I'm
Sure.
going to ask you anyways. What about mortgage.pro? I thought .pro domains were restricted to professionals in the industry. Is that not the case?
It used to be that way, and they let down those restrictions, and now that name can sell to anyone. It's actually an open domain now.
But Eddie, there are like the NYC is restricted, obviously, but
Right.
they're restricted to being owned by residents or businesses in New York, blah blah blah. So people, to the extent that names are have a restriction, you still have to know what the restrictions are if you're eligible.
Okay, so that is the case on .nyc. So if I buy what's .nyc, I actually need to have a presence in New York City.
Right. And we'll make that note at the auction and let people know that, but that's obviously how anybody can own a .nyc name. There'll be obviously plenty of participants and travelers from New York at the conference, so we're not really that concerned about it. They understand what the process is.
Yeah. I saw a CrossFit domain name listed, and so I thought, CrossFit's everywhere, but I went to trademark247.com and typed it in, and I saw Section 8 and 15 accepted trademark for the word CrossFit. Is that something I need to consult an attorney about before I show up at the conference to bid on it?
I'll let Michael, who's the attorney, answer that question, but I'll just make the statement that every generic dictionary term has a trademark attached to it in some way. It's how you use the domain name and how that mark is used. So I'll let Michael go into more detail. But.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously steered clear of anything we thought was a bang-on trademarkish issue. We think this CrossFit is very generic, although there are a couple trademarks for it, and like Monty said, most words, most dictionary words. I mean, going through the Trademark Clearinghouse, going after some new GTLDs, I've had to click through notices for the word "the," and the word "hot," and the word "cool," and so there's trademarks pretty much on everything. So you always need to do diligence if you're concerned. We don't have any typos of trademarks. We don't have any bang-on trademark names, and CrossFit is a very generic term. That if there's a trademark, then you have to respect what they have a trademark for, unless you want to challenge it. So
yeah.
So
it's all about how you use the domain name, not the fact that there's a trademark on it.
Great point. So you've got CrossFit.wiki and CrossFit.net, both great potential businesses there.
Right, and if you think about the concept of wikis, it's a great name to get a wiki name for, because you can write about it all day and people can contribute to that on a regular basis, post their exercises that they do. I do CrossFit 3 times a week, so it's a great thing to talk about it. There's all kinds of CrossFit blog sites all over the place that have new exercises and talk about the exercise and the culture behind it.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to end this interview with a challenge. I want each of you to look through the list. Do you have the list in front of you?
Yeah.
Wait.
I want you to pick 3 domain names that you're confident will sell.
Any name that has a pre-reserve price that's met reserve is going to sell.
All right. Pick any 3 you want. I want to know what you think the sale price is going to be. All right? I'm going to write them down with the sale price. Then after the auction, we're going to come back here and we're going to add them up, the ones that actually sold, and we're going to figure out who the winner is. And I'm going to have something special for the winner. Maybe a broken mug for you, Mike, if you win. So
I never got mine, by the way, Michael. So mine must have just deteriorated and vanished in the mail.
You didn't get yours?
Nope, I never got mine.
All right. We're going to
I think
figure that
somebody
out.
stole it.
Well, Mike got 2 of them. Mike, can you send over the broken one to Monty?
I don't think I maintained that for some reason. I'm not sure why.
All right. So somebody's going to get something special. And so if you pick 3 domain names and none of them sell, then you don't get anything. And clearly the other person's going to win. So it's just closest to the number. Let's start with you, Mike. Give me 3 domain names and what you think the sale price is going to be at the auction. Not post-auction, at the auction.
All right, I'll start the 877.
All right, 877, you're confident will sell. What do you think is going to be the sale price?
I'm going to say it's going to sell towards the top of the range, so I'll go with, let's say, 375.
375K. All right, 2 more.
Nose Jobs. I think Nose Jobs will sell for around 45,000.
45,000.
All right. 50. Let's say 50.
All right, 50,000. Okay.
Let's call it 50,000. All right. So last one that will sell for sure. Well, let's go with this TIK.com because it already has a bid. It's at Let's go with that one. That's too easy. Here, give me another minute and let me. Monty could go and let me just find another one. Let me see if I can find a gem.
All right. Hey, Monty, let's switch over to you while Mike picks his last one. Give me 3 domain names and the sale price that they will sell at.
Okay, so paperback.com.
Paperback,
I think we'll sell at $40,000.
Okay.
Agree.com, which has not met reserve yet. I think we'll sell at $70,000.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick a new TLD that I think is going to be cool. Let's say rates.vegas, and I say it's going to sell for $5,000.
5,000. All right. Mike, back to you for your last one.
Yeah, my last one. I'll go because we've done a lot of reach out to a lot of the bigger of these this kind of business, and I think somebody's going to step up and buy it. So I'm going to go with Wine.Club for $150.
All right. Awesome. I can't wait to see who was more right about the sales. I'm looking forward to the auction in general, gentlemen. For the audience, if you have questions for Michael or Monty, please post them in the comments below this video ASAP. If you don't understand how something works and you want to ask them to explain it, if you think that there's an error and you want them to notified of it, anything, post it below. This video is going live on Thursday. The auction takes place on Tuesday. So you got a few days. Now they're going to be tied up in Vegas getting ready with all the prep. So the sooner you can watch it and comment, the better. Hope this has been useful. I know it's been useful for me to understand why auctions are created a certain way, what the legal ramifications, how it progresses through the system. So thank you, too, for coming on, Michael Berkins and Monty Kahn. We appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge and insights about the auction process and what you think's going to sell. And I can't wait to attend the event live.
Great, and I'm excited to be back in the saddle of doing these auctions again. As you know, we've done. I participated in the very first live auction in the industry and helped pioneer it, and we're excited about the future of this going forward in not only specific TLDs but for the whole entire industry and help raise the tidewater for everybody's value.
Excellent, gentlemen. We'll see you in Vegas.
Yes, we look forward to it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.